Morning, everybody. Come join the conversation. CanadaPoly.com has private forums. That means you have to register in order to see them and to participate. But once you register, you get to see everything we're talking about. The link is in the description, and we'd love to have you. The forums are building, and this software is really good. I'm really happy with the new forum, and I'd love for you to experience it. So come on, register and join our conversation. Black Pigeon Speaks did a great video about Canada, world's first meme country. And yeah, I mean, I said in one of the comments that I've written, I think it was on CanadaPoly.com actually, if you weren't depressed before, wow. And I'm not sure if the person who's behind Black Pigeon Speaks is himself Canadian or if he's just interested in Canada. It seems, I don't know, if you're in Toronto, I'd love to sit down and chat with you, sir, but or anywhere near Toronto. Interesting. You do wonderful videos, and this one is worth your time, dear viewer. So yeah, really, it's a 10-minute video, and the polish and presentation is fantastic. Into the top two news stories I'm going to look at today. Global news reporting. The executive order, which has been under consideration for more than 8 months, could be issued as early as January. And Trump is mulling executive order that would ban companies from using Huawei and ZTE Corp, two of China's biggest network equipment companies. And why? National security. So this is reported this morning. Trump mulls executive order that would ban companies from using Huawei ZTE. Reuters, not Reuters, Reuters, sorry. Reuters. I'll get it right eventually. And the article says, quote, U.S. President Donald Trump is considering an executive order in the new year to declare a national emergency that would bar U.S. companies from using telecommunications equipment made by China's Huawei and ZTE. Three sources familiar with the situation told Reuters. And the reason that's a big deal is because Huawei, under Justin Trudeau, has been given the contract to do our 5G, our country's 5G. So, or they're in last contention. I believe they're reviewing it right now. But if the United States is declaring a national emergency to say, yeah, they're using these companies to spy, and I'll get there in just a second, we should maybe not let Huawei be the backbone of our 5G, right? Because if your network is compromised, if the network that you're connecting to is sending all the data back, it doesn't matter what you do on your phone to protect your privacy. All of that data is being seen by the network, and they have full access, right? Okay, back to the article. It would be the latest step by the Trump administration to cut Huawei Technologies and ZTE Corp, two of China's biggest network equipment companies, out of the U.S. market. The United States alleges that the two companies work at the behest of the Chinese government and that their equipment could be used to spy on Americans. The executive order, which has been under consideration for more than 8 months, could be issued as early as January and would direct the Commerce Department to block U.S. companies from buying equipment from foreign telecommunications market makers that pose significant national security risks, so sources from the telecoms industry and the administration said. So that is something to seriously consider in the upcoming election. Our data is national security, right? Our private data that's on our phone, that's on our web browser, that is communicated through all of these apps, all of these things that we're connected with, that is valuable. Facebook is $1 billion company. Instagram is $1 billion company. It's not that they like pictures. They like audience, right? If you're not paying for it, you're the product. Why do you think it's $1 billion company? Because they have eyeballs, because they can show you advertisements. That's why it's free, right? So it's interesting to consider that, right? It kind of flips things on its head. So when you are giving all of that data, and Mr. Trudeau is allowing StatsCan to go into credit reports to get our banking data, right? So there's even more information there to be dug up and looked at through think tanks, et cetera, especially if there's leaky data. So I don't know. There's lots going on with China. China is very, to paraphrase Will Ferrell, hot right now. And it's really interesting to watch this heat up. Like Trump is putting out statements saying, like, you know, things are fine, we're going to trade with China, they're really friendly, everything's good, and China is agreeing to buy American farmers' goods, etc. Like there's lots of signals that things are cooling down. But then Justin Trudeau arrested the Huawei exec, and Trump demanded extradition. China lost their minds And here we are, right? And Merry Christmas, right? This is a heating up crisis, right? And there's nothing that, well, there's no good ending for Justin Trudeau. He gives in to China and hands the Huawei exec over. Trump's mad. He gives in to Trump and hands the Huawei exec over to the United States, and China's mad. And so they being the Liberal Party are screaming, rule of law, we have rules and we have to follow them. So they're trying to depoliticize it, right? Because it is a bomb and it's ticking. They're trying to push it away from politics as much as possible because they don't want to touch it. And the reason for that is, well, they're stuck, right? They're absolutely stuck. And the USMCA also binds Trudeau's ability to maneuver on this as well, right? So he's absolutely trumped, absolutely done. Okay. Here is the Islamic Ontario Twitter account, and I wanted to show this to you guys because this is relatively new, and I wanted to kind of look into how new, and it's really new. Their first tweet was November 20th, and it says, just setting up my Twitter, #my first tweet, and they have 1 like. Look at that, and 6 replies, and I'm not going to look at the replies. I wanted to look at why Islam and Islamic. This is something they posted 16 hours ago, and I wanted to just show it to you. This is real. Also, I wanted to show you what level they're at. They're not officially a party yet. They need endorsement. Quote, we need endorsement to run next Ontario provincial election. Note, to endorse party, you must be eligible to vote in Ontario. Please email to get endorsement from Islamic. So they are going through the process of trying to get onto the ticket to run presumably a candidate in ridings in Ontario. So be aware this is happening. The link is in the description. You can have a look for yourself. Okay, so this is the article they linked, and it says, why Islam? And I just want to show you the top part here because this is, well, I mean, put the shoe on the other foot. If a Christian political party was putting out stuff like this, that was this radical, I suppose, it would be concerning. It is even more concerning in this lens, like through this Islamic lens. Okay, here we go. So why Islam and Islamic? The word Islam means to submit and surrender. The word Islam also comes from the Arabic word salam that means peace. So the real meaning of Islam is surrender to Allah, the God, to attain peace. If you are not obeying Allah, you are in constant war with Allah, and no one can win in the war with Allah. So the best policy for a human being is to surrender their individual and collective life to Allah to gain peace. Islamic Party is synonymous of the Peace Party. Our flag is white. No matter how and why interpreting Islam differently, our policy will stick to the principles of Islam that Allah and His Messenger define and teach us. Islam is the only way of life accepted by Allah. Okay, so I haven't seen anything quite that direct in any of the Christian political parties. Typically, they leave governance to governance. I also wanted to point out the economic policy. The economic policy is difficult to read. The English isn't very good, but it doesn't really outline a good economic policy. And I didn't get very far. I got to like maybe 1 here, and I just decided to stop because it was very difficult to read. But still, these are concerning things. They're trying to become legitimate, right? They're trying to use our political system to insert laws through their interpretation, and they're being the Islamic Party of Ontario, right? Like that's the they that I'm talking about. So that's interesting to me, and it's interesting to me how quickly there's been pushback. I mean, very, very quickly, I've seen lots of videos and lots of tweets about this. And one of note is one Godless Woman tweeting about this on Christmas Eve, December 23rd. And she put a video together. She printed off the policies of the Islamic Party of Ontario, and she comments on this. And here at 3:15, and I'm not going to play it, but she says, this is the shit I was running away from. So that's telling. And she's got firsthand experience with this, right? She's a person who has lived in that, like as a Muslim and under that law, and came to Canada to flee it. So, and I don't want to usurp her story. Please go watch her channel. Link is in the description. But interesting. It's interesting to note. Why are we not protecting the social fabric and the way of life that we have had in Ontario since Confederation? Why not? Like, is there a reason that we're as Gad Sad said, and as somebody commented the other day that it was Gad Sad I was listening to about the gender stuff, and probably. He also said we're self-selecting to remove ourselves from propagating, right? And we don't have a replacement population. If you have one child from a couple, that's 50%, right? Not replacement. So, and most people, or a lot of people, believed that we shouldn't have children. So, as Gad Sad said on Joe Rogan the other day, we're self-selecting to not propagate our genes, to not pass ourselves and our culture down. And we're embracing that by removing statues and allowing these our laws to be usurped by nationalist, globalist, and religiousist, Islamist, and radicals. Because what? We're too busy? We're too busy. We're too busy to have kids. We're too busy. We're too tired. We're driving all the time. They have engineered this. This is not freedom. This is a prison of another making. And you sit in your car and you think that you've got it good. It's interesting, man. So carrying on, I wanted to show this, and this is where I'll leave it. I just wanted to kind of underline this. I saw this tweet a bunch just around Christmas. It says, Muslim imams in Canada often tell their followers to disrespect the belief of Christians. If a minister or priest does the same regarding Muslims, he will face fines and possibly prison. Trudeau is replacing objectivity and equal rights with subjectivity and Sharia, while Canadians watch. And that was Philip Schuyler. Sorry if I got your name wrong, Philip. But I'd seen news reports as well of an imam saying that Canadians or Muslims should not wish anybody a Merry Christmas. And here it is. It's the Voice of Europe. So again, take this news with a grain of salt. I don't know how legitimate you view the Voice of Europe, but the news in Canada is suspect. And I'll show you why in just a minute, because I went down a rabbit hole that I was like, really? This is happening? Yes, it's happening. Okay, so the Voice of Europe is reporting Canadian imam, and sorry, I want to point out as well, this is Boxing Day 2018. Canadian imam says wishing Christians a Merry Christmas is worse than murder. And during a sermon in British Columbia, Sheikh Jonas Kathrada, sorry if I got your name wrong, sir. I'm not meaning to be disrespectful, just bad at pronouncing names. Said he viewed with, quote, great sadness his fellow Muslims' casual treatment of the, quote, false holiday. He also asserted that Muslims, quote, must be offended by Christians' beliefs. Quote, those who will say to them, Merry Christmas, what are you congratulating them on? He said, congratulations on the birth of your Lord. Is that acceptable to a Muslim? Are you now approving of their beliefs? By saying that, you are approving it. He then claimed that if a person were to commit every major sin, committing adultery, dealing with interest, lying, murder, these are nothing compared to the sin of congratulating and greeting the non-Muslims on their false festivals. Cathadra was quick to note that he did not mean Muslims should, quote, treat the non-Muslims in a way or that deal with them unjustly. I'm not saying, and I've never said, go out and just kill them or do this to them. No, because Allah tells us not to allow the enmity that may exist between you and a people to cause you to be unjust towards them. Rather, be just. So that was, and the reason I read that to you was because in 2005, this person, and I looked up his name, Jonas Kathrada, sorry, and there was a 2005 article about him in the Globe and Mail, and it was updated in May 2018, and it says a Muslim sheikh, says Muslim group denounces sheikh at center of hate crime probe. A Muslim sheikh under investigation over racial slurs against Jews was severely condemned yesterday by a prominent spokesman for the Muslim community in British Columbia. And I'll just jump down. It says, quote, he represents his own views and the views of some people around him. That's it. The vast majority of people do not stand behind what he says. And I'm talking about 99% of people. South African-born Sheikh Jonas Kathrada, who is associated with the Dar al-Medina Islamic Society, has been under investigation for hate crimes since last October. In sermons posted on the internet, he referred to Jews as the brothers of the monkeys and the swine. He said that the Prophet tells them, O Muslim, O slave of Allah, that the very best, verily behind me is a Jew, then come and kill him. So that's pretty extreme, right? And we knew that in 2005. And here's a CBC article basically of the same event, right? 2005. And I just including it for brevity, it's a link is in the description, have a read if you like. And fast forward to 2015, and well, I'll read this to you. This is just, I don't know how this person associates, but he's also associated in this church incident in Vancouver in 2015. So it says, quote, Vancouver churchgoer accused of carrying swastika knife during service. And it says, a Richmond, BC man who was previously the subject of a national security investigation has been charged with entering a Russian Orthodox church with a swastika armband and a large knife. And the reason I'm telling you about it is, sorry, I scrolled down here to get to the point, basically, is the investigation allegedly began with a tip from Sheikh Jonas Kathrada, a Vancouver Muslim cleric who was himself the subject of an investigation by the National Anti-Terror Squad. So he called the authorities on this other person who had been attending this church, and that's why he's part of this. But he's in Vancouver, and according to some news articles, he's in Malaysia. But clearly, if he was in BC preaching that we shouldn't be, or that people shouldn't be wishing Christians a Merry Christmas if they're Muslim, then he's in Canada, right? So it's interesting that we've got a person who is known to preach hate, yet they're allowed to operate out in the open. Yet any kind of discussion about right-wing politics, and you're racist, and you're anti-whatever, or anti-woman, or a white supremacist, right? Like you can't have a conversation that encircles anything to do with security or even factual things that are happening without being accused of being racist. And yet people like this are allowed to spew hate over decades. Like this guy was operating in 2005 in Canada and still allowed to spew hatred on platforms that are presumably not demonetized, right? Nobody's calling for him to be silenced, and yet Laura Loomer is off Twitter, and it's just an interesting juxtaposition to consider, right? Well, I've gotten possibly too far off track today, but that's all right. I hope you have an excellent day. We're getting to the other side and almost into 2019. I'm going to try and do an end of year roundup, but we'll see. And well, have an excellent Boxing Week, and we'll see you later on.